connect or die. Welcome to the most honest podcast on the internet. Dude! This voice memo's already going.
Okay, we are recording. I believe we are.
I'm probably gonna watch this back and be like, oh my gosh, my posture is terrible. This all the time.
My posture's always terrible.
What up, man?
Hey, man.
What's up?
Well, yeah, dude, seriously. But you like my socks and moccasins?
I feel like it's pretty...
not moccasins, Birkenstocks.
I feel like it's pretty fitting for what we're talking about today.
Yeah, it is. It's just so comfortable. That's why I keep doing it. And just for all you, just so you guys know, these sandals are older than I am.
Oh, seriously?
Yeah, they're like 32 years old.
So who's all worn them?
My mom wore them for 15 years, and then I stole them from her when I was 15.
Nice. I didn't even realize Birkenstocks had been around that long.
Oh, yeah. They've been around for a while.
Jeez.
Yeah, the hippies had them back in like the 60s and 70s. Really? Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting story about my shoes. So one day I went to a game night over at McLean's house.
Yeah.
And a bunch of other people came, and everyone takes their shoes off, puts them in the closet, and then a group of people were going to leave, and we realized that another individual had this exact same pair of shoe.
Really?
In the exact same condition, exact same size.
What?
So I genuinely don't know if this is the pair of shoes that I personally bought at Target. I have no idea, and I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's that is super interesting.
What other things have this shoe possibly been through? I have no idea.
Yeah.
I know what I did when I was wearing
a
it.
piece of history.
Yeah, someone else's life. I'm literally I could be walking in someone else's shoes right now.
That's crazy. Cool. That is kind of cool. Very metaphoric.
So today we're Greatest Generation, right?
Yeah.
We're just gonna blast it out there.
Yeah.
Because I genuinely believe it.
Yeah. And
I think I don't know about you, but personally, the reason why I believe that millennials are the greatest generation, I think the first reason is because I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
And why wouldn't I want to?
Yeah.
Why wouldn't I want to believe that? The first thing that comes to my mind is Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
Right? He called himself the greatest.
Yeah. And
people thought it was arrogant, but it was I think it's because he told himself that all the time that he is considered one of the greatest.
Yeah. Well, and what I love is that a generation literally did that.
Yeah.
They're okay, so you guys are Gen X, you guys are baby boomers, we're the greatest generation.
Yeah, right? What was it? Was it Tom Brokaw? Who was the one who wrote? Because there's a book called The Greatest Generation, right?
I have no idea.
But I think the individual who wrote it was part of that generation. And it's and I can understand it.
Yeah. Well, they went through the Great Depression. World War II.
Yeah, to grow up in the Great Depression, I can't even imagine what that would have been like.
Yeah. Well, I often think too about because my grandpa was born in the Great Depression.
Yeah.
You know.
Did he fight in World War II?
He fought in the Korean War.
Okay.
He's in Special Forces.
Yeah.
So his story's gnarly. I'd love to get into it someday. Yeah. He's a total stud.
It's interesting to me how there are wars that we don't talk about.
Yeah.
World War II is that's the war.
Yeah.
Where we were very altruistic, our nation. And
yeah. Well, that war, there's a clear good and evil.
That's true. Yeah.
There was clearly Germany was wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
They were doing some messed up shit.
Which is kind of funny because the two world wars were both times it was Germany's let's just take over everything.
Yeah.
Let's just take over the whole world.
That's true.
And rather than it being oh yeah, obviously just squash, done, it was close twice.
Yeah.
It's impressive.
It's crazy.
Well, and then I find it funny too because now I feel they're moving so far in the opposite direction, trying to look the most.
Yeah, I don't know anything about Germany.
Yeah.
Other than literally that era.
Yeah, I just know about Night of Long Knives. I know about the World War II, kind of how all that happened.
Yeah.
I'm pretty well read on that, but
for sure.
Germany in general, I don't know that much about. Which that's where part of my family's from. That's where Natalie's family's from. Too.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So.
But yeah, I think
my mom's side of the family is Heiner. That's as German as it gets, man.
That is quite German.
Yeah. Swenson's Danish, but Heiner, that's straight German.
Crazy.
But yeah, I often think about this though. I often think about all the generations that led up to where we're at today.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think about millennials, like they talk. What are the? Maybe we should go over like the major things that, because millennials are obviously the ones that all of the generations above us attack.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like
well,
I don't
mean,
even
I think
like
even in some ways younger generations, like millennials, like you guys got a bad rap. Like I think millennial has become almost synonymous with entitlement.
Yeah.
Like millennials are entitled. Like they're so entitled.
Yeah.
But I just and I wonder why that is. Like why is there such a concerted effort to like bring an entire generation
here's
down?
what I
like
think.
What do people have to gain from that?
Yeah.
I don't want to tear down other generations.
Yeah.
Even in claiming the title of the greatest generation, I'm not telling other generations that they can't believe that.
Yeah.
Like, go for it,
dude. Yeah, I think it's funny because it's here's what my theory is.
Mm.
We are the last generation to remember no internet.
Yeah.
I remember not having internet.
Exactly. When
like,
we grew
barely.
up. When we grew up.
Yeah, I was probably what? I was 5 or 6 when my parents got I was older than that. I was 7 when my parents got a computer for the first time.
When I got a computer, it was this old like Mac.
Yeah, like
it didn't even have the internet. I don't think it was just like Word files and weird computer games.
Yeah, the floppy.
Weird computer games.
And playing what was that? Oregon Trail.
Yeah.
Oregon Trail, man.
Get dysentery. And all that crap. Yeah, that my family had one of those, and I don't remember how much it cost, but that thing was like expensive.
Yeah.
For this.
Yeah.
The
Dude,
Macintosh.
When you said dysentery, I just keep thinking about like how many people died from diarrhea before like Pepto-Bismol. So many people.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't even think I thought about that.
Because dysentery, that's what it is, right? You're like crapping your pants.
Dude, I didn't even know that. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I just remembered, like, when I hear dysentery.
Oh, that's like the worst. It's like, like, could you imagine, like, you're like someone in your party, you're like, oh man, what's happening? He's crapping himself again.
So the other day,
that is the worst. That would be the worst way to go. Like, no dignity.
Yeah. You're just. I literally shit myself to death.
Yeah. I can't keep anything down because it just shoots right.
The other day I was thinking it'd be really funny if we did this ongoing like joke of, you might be a redneck, like those jokes.
Yeah.
Like if this, and this, you might be a redneck. I think we should do it with millennials.
And
the one that just came to my mind, and again, I can only like ever speak to my own experience, so if this isn't part of being a millennial, I don't know.
Yeah.
But like if you hear the word dysentery and the first thing that comes to your mind is the Oregon Trail, like you might be a millennial.
Yeah. That's pretty good.
But you're right.
Good.
I mean,
the
internet was not a thing. I had video games.
Yeah.
I got a Super Nintendo.
Dude, N64.
N64. Like I had that.
Dude, Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
Zelda.
Oh, dude,
it's great stuff,
Ocarina of
man.
Time. I want to play that again.
Dude, me and Natalie, when she was first pregnant, I found a N64. I had 007. My brother has it now. I had 007. I had Zelda.
Dude.
Ocarina of Time. And Natalie was pregnant, and so toward the end of her pregnancy, like, we didn't get out that much. She's way more active with her second pregnancy.
Yeah.
But the first one, we just played
a
Zelda.
lot of, dude, that's awesome.
We played Zelda.
Just played through the
007.
story.
Yeah, because we don't really like video games, or I literally have been given 3 Xbox 360s, and I've ended up giving all 3 of them away.
Oh man!
And I had like 60 games, and I literally never played them.
I thought about doing that with Ash though, like because I have a Super Nintendo.
Yeah.
And I do have an N64 somewhere.
Do you have Excitebike?
Is that a Super Nintendo game?
Yeah, so good.
Oh man,
Good.
I've got some good ones though. Like I have a Ninja Turtles game, like Turtles in Time. Oh man,
dude,
some of them cost me like a decent amount.
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure I could sell some of them for a pretty good price these days. But
I'm sure.
I
saw Nintendo came out with something though that you can get like all the old consoles.
Yeah,
like it's in one console.
One thing,
That's
and it like
cool.
plugs in with like USB.
Yeah,
and they're just like preloaded on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember my parents, my mom, she stayed at home with me, my brother, my sister, my younger sister. I don't ever remember her having to tell me and my brother to like put our video games away and go outside.
Yeah.
We just like did.
Yeah.
My brother and I, we just went outside. We played basketball. Like, we played football. Like I went outside with riding bikes with my friends.
Yeah.
Like, of course, we played video games. Like, of course, like sometimes when the internet came along, we used that. But part of us just wanted to be outside too.
Yeah. Well, I still remember like, and that's one thing I really am trying to foster with my daughter. But like, I used to use sticks as toys. Oh, there's a gun. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, we'd go play for hours with our little sticks.
Dude.
You know, or we'd go build. So I lived right on the edge of, kind of the edge of the town that I was in. So there's Cedar Hills, and there's this old part of Cedar Hills. Mm-hmm. And I lived right there. And then our house, like the fence, I jumped the fence, no houses for miles. And so I would just go jump the fence. Like, I'd be like, hey, Mom, I'll be out past the fence. She's like, okay. And then she would come out. My mom has, like, the craziest whistle you've ever heard. Like, it'll, like, blow eardrums. She'd just come out and whistle, and then I knew how to make my way home.
That's crazy.
You know? And that's what I did. Like, I still remember. So my two younger brothers and me, like, played a lot together. And then my two older brothers were, like, best friends. And so that's kind of what got me into, like, skateboarding. Like, that's why I'm into sports that I can do myself. Mm-hmm. Like, even, you know, rock climbing, I guess that's more, you have to have other people, but it's like you against yourself.
Yeah.
And I still remember that. Like, I remember I would just go, I'd be like, hey, I'm going to go, like, just look around. And I'll be like, okay, I'll just whistle for you.
During the summers, like, me and my friends, we'd just ride our bikes everywhere. Yeah. We'd ride our bikes to the store. We'd ride our bikes to Taco Bell. Like, do kids do that these days?
I don't know. Like, I used to ride my skateboard. We'd ride it to the grocery store and buy ice cream and then ride home.
Oh, yeah.
And that's like probably 4 miles. Like, it's an 8-mile round trip.
And
we just skated.
It's so much fun. I remember learning how to ride my bike with no hands and I'd flap in the wind.
Yeah.
Like, and did you do the thing where you would put like the card with the clothespin in your tire?
Easy, yeah, always. I remember one of my buddies had a bicycle that looked like a motorcycle. And then he would put those things in it, and I thought that was the coolest thing. I was so jealous. Yeah. It was yellow. I still remember.
So I mean, if some of these things are unique to our generation or they're not, like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
But like, I think this is just like our experience.
Yeah. And I think millennials, that was the first. Here's why I think it's one of the greatest generations. Like, first of all, I think we get a bad rap.
No, we are not one of the greatest.
Yeah,
we are the greatest.
We are the greatest generation.
And even if we haven't shown it yet.
Yeah.
I believe we have the capacity to be.
Well, I think we have shown it, though. So here's why I think that. I think that the internet brought about, the reason that millennials have such a bad rap is, first of all, we're the first ones growing up with the internet.
Yeah, distraction.
So we're the first generation for people to look at and say, like, man, these kids are narcissistic. Man, these kids are so self-focused.
Like selfies.
Yeah, selfie. Yeah. Right?
Twitter or Facebook where we're saying, like,
we're literally...
I'm on the toilet, everybody.
Yeah.
Status update.
Yeah. And so I totally understand. And so these older generations, they look at this and they're like, that's stupid. That's a waste of time.
When we grew up, like, we didn't think anyone cared about what we thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, well... Maybe that's not a good thing, though. Maybe that's not a good thing.
Maybe it's, I remember I was talking to my mom about this, and she's like, when I was growing up, like, you never questioned your elders. Like, people who are older than you never questioned them. And I think that we've probably, the pendulum's going to swing. With the new technology, it's like all of a sudden all these people have a voice, and it's going to swing back and forth.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like, and I think in some ways when I've watched it, like, it swings too far in one direction and then it makes its way back and then it swings again, you know. Ours was the first generation to really discover that stuff, to have
to know what it was like to navigate it, and
or like, you know, have to deal with internet pornography.
Yeah, dude. Like, I was 9 years old when I first started using pornography regularly. I would go over to my friend's house, and not that we would do it every time, but it was a regular occurrence.
Yeah, totally.
And it kind of just became a normal thing. And at that point, I didn't even know it was quote unquote bad.
Yeah.
Or like against my religious beliefs or anything. Yeah. I had no idea. The first time I realized that, I was like 14. Yeah. And I was like, well, I've been doing this now for 5 years. Like, uh-oh.
Yeah. Well, and I remember I used to always, like, take the paper and I'd go to, like, the lingerie section before we had a computer. Like, oh, you know.
Well, the first time I saw porn, it was magazine, because we didn't have internet yet.
See, I had never seen porn on a magazine until I don't even think I've seen it now.
Yeah.
Ever.
Really?
Yeah. It was always just the lingerie section for me, man. That was my place.
You're like,
and I still remember that.
You were just like, gawk by. Ooh.
Yeah. Well, and honestly,
it
came out more of like curiosity. Because we kind of grew up in a generation where there's a lot. I think that's why it swings. Once again, this pendulum swings back and forth. But everything was a lot more secretive. Mm-hmm. Like I remember in 7th grade, and we had the sex ed class, and there's like a perfect picture of a penis. It's like everything is there. And then I still remember it was a line for a girl. Like they didn't explain anything. So I'm like, I had no idea. Like it wasn't until, like I'm being totally honest now, like it wasn't until after my mission that I was like gonna get married, and I'm like, I need to know what's going on down there.
Like, yeah.
Because even when I was looking at porn online, I didn't ever get into anything crazy, mostly because our internet connection. I think our internet connection sucks so bad. Yeah. Like there was no sneaky. You'd have to be like, okay, I gotta wait 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Hopefully nobody comes.
I think so much changed in terms of like you look at media that was popular when we were growing up.
Yeah.
I mean South Park.
Yeah.
South Park was huge for our generation.
Totally.
And I don't know necessarily. I think the creators of it are not millennials, but
I
the
think
generation
they're a little bit older. They're close.
But
because
they were
something?
catering to us.
Yeah.
It was the first mainstream. At least I think, I could be wrong. This is just from my head. The first mainstream cartoon that was crass, that like challenged norms consistently, that made fun of everybody.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we grew up on.
Yeah.
We grew up on this idea that we could question things. That just because it was that way doesn't mean it had to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's, like you were saying, your mom, my parents, that just wasn't the way it was. When their parents said something, that was set in stone, 10 commandments type stuff. And what I've thought about, one of the reasons why I think the millennial generation is so much different, especially in the United States of America, is 9/11.
Yeah.
I genuinely believe that because I was in 6th grade.
Yeah.
Watching it all that entire day.
Yeah.
I watched it. I watched video clips of people jumping from buildings.
I remember my dad came and shut it off. So I still remember that I was listening to the radio that morning. I still remember the shirt I was wearing. It was my older brother's Volcom shirt. So I had like the yellow, like the Volcom sign. I thought it was the coolest shirt ever. Yeah. It was green and yellow. And I was listening to the radio while I was cleaning the dishes. That's what I did every morning. That was my job before I left the house, was to do the dishes. Yeah. So I was cleaning the dishes, and then I hear, I didn't know what the World Trade Centers were.
No, I had
no idea.
Yeah.
So
I didn't know where it was.
I just hear, I go up to my mom, and I'm like, hey, I just heard that like somebody crashed a plane into some building called the World Trade Center. Mom was like, what? I'm like, yeah, let's turn it on.
I'm like getting chills remembering like these things.
Yeah, literally turning it on. And then seeing the second plane live. It said like live. I still remember the red live sign.
Yeah. Crashed.
And
on live TV.
On live TV.
Dude, I was in my reading class.
Yeah.
6th grade, middle school, and the principal came over the loudspeaker.
Yeah.
And again, I was this is the first time I ever heard of the World Trade Center. Like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Like, what, a plane flew into a building? Like, what is happening?
Yeah. And
then my teacher turned it on. We just watched it, and that's what we did.
Yeah,
all day.
Yeah,
it didn't matter what science, we were watching the footage.
Yeah,
because nothing like that had ever happened. Like since, Pearl Harbor.
Yeah,
the United States had never been attacked like that, and that was in Hawaii.
Everyone heard
it was part of a war.
A
war was going on. But this was we had no idea.
Yeah,
and I think that was the first time for me looking back on it.
I haven't thought about that for a long time. Yeah. I will not
die at a desk job.
Yeah.
I could go to a desk job one day.
Yeah.
And everything could end.
Yeah.
And I think that was I genuinely believe that event shaped our generation because we were so
a good point.
We were so young. I was 11.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy cow. Like the opposition in the world, people who hate our way of life. it just opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And you kind of had to grow up a little bit.
Yeah.
And because I kept watching it.
Dude,
it wasn't just that day.
I remember, like, I would watch it
and the death toll was
day.
like constantly rising.
Yeah.
You're just like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah.
What is this? Like,
my
childhood is like over. Like,
I still remember, like, I was watching. I just couldn't stop watching it. So I got home from school and I turned it on, and my dad came down. It was probably 7:30 or 8 o'clock at night, and he had been at work, and then he had meetings, and so he came in. He just saw me like sitting there, and you know, this is September, so it's not dark quite yet. It's getting closer. And he just came and shut it off, and he said, hey, like, just come with me out. Let's just go outside for a minute. And I still remember that. Like, I still remember, like, I couldn't turn it off. It's like I was sucked into it, and I was seeing people jump, holding hands, businessmen and women holding hands and jumping to their death.
Well,
like,
the more the story, the more content we got.
Yeah.
We started seeing close-up pictures of people just jumping.
Well, and it's like, that was a 24-hour news cycle. It started then,
not
too.
only that, every single, like, whether it was a television show or it was a talk show, like, that's all anyone could talk about.
Yeah.
And rightly so.
Yeah.
It was a terrible, terrible, terrible day.
Over 2,000 people?
Yeah, 2,400 something.
Yeah.
And I think the internet, obviously the internet played a role in terms of that, like having such
was the first
coverage.
time, like, people took pictures and they're like, this looks like the devil's face. And
yep.
Like, I remember
all
as
these
a kid
conspiracy
thinking,
theories, like
the
government might be involved in it. And there was like, what?
Yeah.
Government might be involved?
Yeah.
And, like, that's how we grew up.
And we're kids talking
like
about
Bush?
this to each other.
Yeah. I talked more about George Bush after that than, like, ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, I just, and then all of it, you know, Obama, right? He, as a president, he's on TV.
Yeah.
And that's the first time we've ever had a president be that public. And now Donald Trump is, and I think that there's so many different things that have happened to our generation that make us unique.
Yeah.
Just by virtue of the experiences.
Yeah.
And again, what made the greatest generation the greatest generation?
Yeah.
World War II and the Great Depression.
Totally.
What makes us, like, you have 9/11, you have the internet, the housing crisis.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That was the first time where anyone was like, this whole American dream of having a house, we were just like,
yeah.
Well, fuck that. Like, if I'm going to lose my whole livelihood on a house, like, no. I don't care if I live in an apartment until I'm ready to, like, pay for a house straight up. Like, the whole thing shifted.
And then they wonder why, like, our generation is moving into buses or moving into alternative type of homes. Like, even in my house.
Smaller houses. Like,
smaller. Like, let's not take up as much room. We don't need a huge house. We want to have experiences. Like, it was a total paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Of seeing what we don't want.
Yeah. And the internet making the world just smaller, a smaller place.
Yeah.
And you know, we've seen news coverage of the war in Iraq. We've seen news coverage of Afghanistan. We've seen news coverage of some of the terrible genocides that have taken place, whether it's in Africa or other places. We've watched movies that are incredibly, like, descriptive and accurate when it comes, and
graphic. I still remember.
Yeah.
I remember
Saving
when
Private Ryan.
Saving Private Ryan came out. I remember watching that and being like that was pretty horrific.
Yeah.
You know.
And I think it's important, you know, whether it's these smaller houses, whether it's Saving Private Ryan, because obviously Steven Spielberg is not a millennial.
No.
But in my opinion, the entire landscape of our childhood and our young, most, like, formidable age was shaped by, well, what are people going to watch?
Yeah.
What are people going to want? And it's this push towards what is real.
Yeah.
What is real? Like, let's live for what is real.
Yeah.
We don't care about the notions of the past, like the beliefs of the past.
Yeah.
Like, we don't have some false sense of security that the president is some flawless figure.
Yeah.
Right? That because Nixon blew that whole thing up.
Yeah.
And everyone was so shocked by it. We've never been shocked by the fact that our presidents could be the worst the worst people in the world.
Yeah.
Potentially.
Yeah.
That wouldn't shock us.
Yeah.
And so I think all of these things have created an environment in which we have the capacity to do things that the world has never seen before.
Well, and one thing that I find interesting too, is ours was the first generation to deal with social media for the first time. It was the first time. I feel like social media started out. It was like, hey, show your best self, only your best pictures, only it doesn't matter what you're actually feeling, just do this, which is
suck it in.
What a lot of which is what. I mean, that was the beginning of it. That's what you wanted to do.
But I think that was from generations past, right? Because that's what was out there was magazines, movie stars, right? Photoshopped, made up, and I think that is something we've had to deal with. But we've also been a part of the movement to say, no, it's not real. Yeah, it's not real. Yeah, this Instagram life, this Facebook life, this social media, it's not real. Yeah, we don't want it.
And then we started making changes where it was, okay, well, why don't I put forth something super authentic? And the first people to do that, or to make really interesting content, like a lot of the biggest guys on YouTube right now started out as daily vloggers. Mm-hmm. It's like, hey, so I'm gonna go to the grocery store, and like it's like the most boring videos, but it was extremely just real.
You're like, I can relate to this.
Yeah, and then you started seeing
reality shows.
Yeah, reality
when
shows.
When did reality shows pop up? I'm not saying millennials created these things, but we're a huge part of
the... We're the first ones to really experience it. Like,
we're a huge part of the culture that they're catering to. Yeah. Because we want something real, even if it's not real. Yeah, even though we want to believe it is. Yeah. And that's what we want to be a part of. And, yeah, I think that shaped us in so many ways, and like I said, it set us up to this place, and this is at least how I feel. Yeah. Where I look at the past generations, you know, I look at my grandpa who worked for the railroad for 35 years. Yeah. And I can't wrap my head around how he did that. Yeah. How he could do that. One job, one thing for one company for 35 years? Yeah. Like, that just sounds kind of soul crushing to me. Yeah. I want to explore. I want to play. I want to my passions. I want to make them meaningful and significant. I want to believe that my voice matters. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of the entitlement comes from. And I think that's a topic to talk about. Yeah. What is entitlement? Well, is there false entitlement and then real entitlement? Yeah. Like, what is it?
And I think that would be
because we're definitely an entitled generation. Like, let's not like own it completely.
100%. And it's interesting because I remember when I was in high school, I had this class where we'd go and meet people in retirement homes. And so these are the previous generations, a couple generations behind me, right? Or ahead. Yeah, behind me. Yeah. And I would go talk to them, and this is what scared me the most. This is why I've thought about my deathbed like every day since then, is regret. Yeah. Regret. Oh, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done it. I should have just taken risks. I didn't realize, you know, I had an entire, like, half a year that I went and visited these people at least once to twice a week. Yeah. And I'd just be like, so, like, what advice can you give me? That's what I would always ask at the end. And, dude, that, like, scared the hell right out of me. Yeah. Like, I was just like,
I don't want to be here someday.
Yeah. I don't want to be stuck in a bed alone. I'd rather die with my boots on. Yeah. You know?
And I think that's why we look at people like Wim Hof and we're like, yes,
yeah,
yes,
yeah.
And so we like, and again, the internet has created this environment where we can look at the most amazing people from all generations. Yeah. If you wanted to go and like research Julius Caesar, right? Yeah. If you wanted to be like Caesar, yeah, you could learn everything about Caesar at the click of a button. Yeah. If you wanted to be like Winston Churchill, there's movies, there's endless amounts of content that you could get on Winston Churchill. Whereas in the past, what would you have to do?
You have to go to a library.
You have to go to a library.
I still remember going to libraries.
Yeah, that's part of our generation's experience. Yeah. Like, we have this weird, like, half and half. Yeah. This half of, like, a traditional life and this half of, like, this whole new thing. Yeah. And I think that's why, like, there's this fusing of something where we understand the simplicity. Yeah. We understand parts of the simple life, and we remember it. We're very nostalgic. Yeah. For instance, did you ever play with Pogs?
Oh, yeah. Dude, so we were looking through my brother's stuff. We were helping my sister-in-law move, and we were looking through all my brother's old stuff, you know. And he had a whole bag of Pogs.
Do you
But
know
he
what?
didn't have any slammers. He just had the Pogs.
Just the Pogs.
Yeah.
Oh, those slammers were epic.
Dude, that
Did you
was
even
awesome.
Did you even know that game had rules?
No.
No, we just collected them
Yeah,
because they had
it's
cool
awesome.
pictures on them.
We just slam
We
them
just
down.
slam them down, and we'd like show them my slammer shinier than your slammer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Well, and it was something you could carry in your pocket.
yeah.
Do
Sleeves
you remember
of
when?
them.
Do you remember when Pokemon cards came out?
So see, I went from living in California, which
Yeah.
was like ahead
Yeah.
of the curve, and so I think I was too young
Yeah.
when Pokemon was really, really popular there, and then by
Yeah.
the time it kind of fizzled out, I'd kind of grown it
Yeah.
over
So
it.
I
And then I
never
moved to
actually bought
Nebraska,
it.
and they were
Yeah.
behind,
Yeah.
and so everyone was into them, and I was just like, what is this weird crap?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to go surfing, and I'm
Yeah.
in Nebraska. Like,
Yeah.
what's going on? Like, I want to go to the beach, but
Yeah. No, I still remember, like, I never got into them. Like, so I was kind of a weird kid because I never got into Pokemon cards. I remember everybody loved them. I'd look at their cards. I thought it was cool. And I never got into any of the boy bands. I never listened to NSYNC. And it was mostly because I had a bunch of older brothers that would make fun of me if I tried to listen to that stuff. Or if I tried to buy Pokemon cards, I'd get made fun of.
yeah.
And so
I'm just gonna
I
own it.
actually
I
listened.
straight up watched Hannah Montana growing up.
No,
like,
I didn't. See, we just had local TV. We didn't have
okay.
anything. I still remember. I remember my brother showing me Led Zeppelin and Green Day, and like AC/DC, and that's what I was listening to,
dude,
in like second and third grade.
Me too.
You know, and I remember I had this little teeny stereo, and you get the little CDs, and you're like, oh, put them in, and I'd listen to my music, and
The little Walkman.
dude, the Walkman.
The Walkman.
Remember
I think the first CD that I ever actually owned, and I think my older brother was actually the one who bought it, was
Yeah.
that Limp Bizkit CD
Yeah.
with Nookie on it, and a significant other or something like that. I
Yeah.
can't remember, but yeah, it was parentally advised, and we're like, what does parentally advised mean? And then we started listening to like Eminem and all this other stuff, and oh man,
I still remember when the first like MP3 players are coming out, and I got like a Zoom. You remember the Zoom?
Yeah, my friend had one.
Holy cow! I still remember. It was
like
the
a brick.
biggest pain to try and put music on
I
that
bet.
thing.
What did you have to? What
would
program
have to,
did you have to
yeah,
use?
well, I remember
You have to get one from like China,
Yeah.
like illegally. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, oh,
And I
it's
still
gonna get so
remember
many
like making.
viruses.
I remember making mix CDs all the time. Like if you really liked a girl, you'd make her a mix CD.
Yep.
And
Do you remember
like, it was the
Instant
best.
Messenger?
Yeah.
AOL Instant
Dude.
Messenger.
Holy cow! That's just such a. It's so interesting because we kind of discovered all that stuff for the first time.
Yeah, we were kids.
Yeah, and it's
That was our playground.
Yeah.
It was part of our playground.
yeah, and it's interesting because I often, this is just, I guess this is the part of my brain that's more of like a pessimist or something, but I often wonder if the reason that so many of the generations before us hate us so much specifically
Yeah.
is because, one, they're the ones raising us,
Mm-hmm.
and
And they're creating a lot of the platforms that we're
yeah,
using.
and they're creating all the platforms, and then they saw this like negative swing, right?
where we were just like, no.
Yeah,
Throwing up middle fingers.
Yeah.
Like, screw you guys. We're
Yeah.
doing it differently.
yeah, that's so interesting.
And I think, at least for me, and
Yeah.
I believe you're on the same page. One of the reasons why we're doing this podcast, and one of the reasons why we call it Connect or Die,
Yeah,
is because of the internet, because of all these things we've experienced. I think we're in one of the generations that have one of the greatest challenges between disconnection and connection.
totally.
Because again, I started looking at porn when I was 9 years old.
I was 8.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Netflix came out when I was around. Netflix was super popular around the time that I got my first job
yeah,
out of college.
yeah,
Those are probably two of my most like disconnective patterns. The things that I use to completely check out from my own life
Totally.
and from everyone around me.
totally.
But what I also have experienced personally is that because the pendulum is so far on one side, that we are a generation that can experience so much disconnection because of how we grew up and the things that we like experienced. We have the capacity, I think, for an incredible amount of connection.
Yeah,
Because we remember the simpler times.
yeah,
We remember like riding our bikes. We remember going to the library.
Yeah.
We remember playing on the blacktop and playing on the playground,
Yeah.
playing Foursquare. Like, and again, I have no idea what kids do these days in school.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Who knows? But
well, and now they're taking away more and more recess. Like, I still remember, I mean, we would just go play football.
yeah,
And we'd play football until that bell rang and we had to go in. And I don't know, it's interesting thinking back, because it's like, what are kids, do they still do that? And now I know that they're taking away, they've continually like pulled back on recess, which negatively affects boys specifically.
absolutely.
And it's, I feel like ours though is here's why I think we're the greatest generation. Because like you said, we have that duality, and so we're starting, because most of us are just getting into our 30s, or just like on that cusp, or starting to say, I don't want that, and I do want this.
Yes.
And I know where this leads because I've seen it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that there's a lot of other generations that it was like, hey, you just buy into what everyone else is doing. And this is the first time that we're like, I'm not buying into anything.
For sure.
I'm not buying into it until I can see that the results are worth my time.
Yeah.
And that's interesting.
It is. Well, and I think social media, the internet, it plays into it, because we're all basically one person removed from, I believe, any experience you could possibly imagine.
Yeah.
Like, we all know somebody pretty decently intimately who's probably been sexually assaulted.
Yeah.
We all know somebody who's gone through a divorce. We all know somebody who's had a child pass away.
Yeah.
And whereas maybe in the past, the only way to really connect with people was either to write a letter or to get on the phone.
Yeah.
And your circle was probably a little smaller, our circle has expanded.
Yeah.
Social media has given us that ability where we can go on to Facebook and we can see just a limitless amount of people's experiences.
Yeah.
And we read them and we feel them.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I feel like I've got a pretty good analogy for what we experienced as kids.
yeah.
Is a dam broke. And when a dam breaks at the beginning, it goes thin and wide.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So we had a little bit of connection or disconnection with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Went wide.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's starting to like funnel back into like deep rivers that allows us to pick and choose the kind of content that we want to consume.
Absolutely.
And because
we're like, if I want to lose weight, boom, endless resources.
I can find
endless
the exact
resources.
person who I need, that I connect with, that's going to help me get what I want.
Exactly.
And we've never had that. Like I was thinking about just how many podcasts have I listened to? I've been able to. I grew up super dyslexic, had a really hard time in school, really hard time. When I got back from my LDS mission, I was able to read, which was a huge blessing. But then right around that time, Audible came out, and I was like, I can just listen. I can listen to a book for 12 hours straight.
Yeah.
No problem. When I'm like, if I would have had this in school, I've gotten straight A's. I would have had straight A's through the whole thing.
Yeah.
But because it was, you have to read these. I would have, because I would sit down, I would start reading, and I had ADD too, so I'd start reading, and then my eyes would start to skip. Whenever I went to another line, it would like freak out, and then I would start reading, and then I would start coming up with my own story, and then I'd start thinking, and then I look around, and everyone else is almost done with the test. I'm like, oh no, I need to finish.
You just brought to my mind, I think, maybe another thing. We are a generation of labels.
Yeah.
And we haven't chosen them. They've been put on us.
Yeah.
Like, how many boys growing up in the millennial generation were told that they have ADD?
Yeah. And
because it became a thing.
Yeah.
People recognized it and they started wanting to medicate it. And they were drugged and they were told, you have ADD, take your ADD medication.
Yeah.
You have dyslexia, take this, right?
Yeah.
Autism, Asperger's, all these millennial.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we're one of the first generations to like literally identify ourselves by what our generation is called.
Totally.
Like, I am a millennial.
Yeah.
How many times
Who
have
says
you heard that?
I am the greatest generation?
Yeah, I'm the greatest generation, or I am a baby boomer. I mean, maybe you hear that every once in a while, but we've had so many labels put on us.
Yeah.
You are entitled.
Dude,
you
that's one thing I have to say. Like
that's a huge disconnect.
Totally.
To just grow up with so many labels and you're just
totally.
like, this is who I am, and it kind of puts you in a box.
Yeah.
And the moment you're able to break from that box, I was watching Shawshank Redemption yesterday, and it just reminds me of when, Andy Dufresne is going through 500 yards of shit.
Yeah.
Like, our generation has been through a lot of shit, and it's not to say that other generations haven't. Obviously, like World War II.
We're standing on the shoulders of giants.
My gosh. Yeah, we are. We truly are. And we read about their stories, we watch their movies. And we connect with them. Because there's something about, when I watch Saving Private Ryan, and the general, or, Tom Hanks' character is looking at Matt Damon's character, I can't even remember their names, and he says, earn this.
Yeah.
Earn this. I felt like he was talking to me.
Yeah.
And I went to Arlington Cemetery, and I just stood at one of the tallest, points.
Yeah. And
just looked around, and as far as my eye could see, I just see these white gravestones.
Yeah.
And it was this physical representation of like, oh my gosh, so many people have died for the life that I'm living today.
Yeah.
And I almost feel it's irresponsible to live my life smaller than I feel.
Yeah.
I
like
want to.
Almost,
not even that I should, like but that I want to.
Yeah, it's almost like you feel like you're like a lack of gratitude doesn't come from not saying thank you all the time. For me, I'm like, a lack of gratitude would be for me to squander what I've been given.
Yeah.
And to go and because I worked in the corporate world for like 8 years, and frankly, if I would have stayed there, yes, could I live in a bigger house? For sure.
Yeah.
Could I have prestige or look really good or whatever? Yes, definitely. But I think that would have been the most ungrateful thing I could ever do.
Yeah.
And one thing about our generation too is we just have access to so much information. I can go on Ancestry.com and read my aunt's portrayal of my grandma and what she was going through. I remember I was reading that one day. I was reading about how they were talking about their first child passed away from polio. And she was talking about how hard that was for her sister. And I was reading these words, and this is when my grandpa was out at war. And it's like, I don't think I'd have ever been able to do that.
Yeah.
Or go read about my other ancestor. Like I could go on all day about this, but another one who she had buried like 8 children under a tree up in Hennifer.
Jeez.
You know what I mean? Like, because they just passed away. She had something, and they would just pass away. She'd go bury them. I'm like, how hard would that be?
Yeah.
And then I read about, I have an aunt who was a slave owner, and then she found God. And in that same day, she went to all of her slaves and she said, I can't own you. God's the only one who could possibly do that.
Yeah.
For those of you who want to come with me, like, everyone here, you're free. You're welcome. I'll be happy to pay you if you want to stay and work. This is before she moved away. If you want to stay and work, you can stay and work. Like, before, I feel like we were a little bit blind. Like, we didn't know how many came before us. We didn't understand. Like, I wouldn't be able to understand that, oh, Constantine, that's in my blood. Oh, this Viking, Knut Svensson, who took over all of England for like almost a decade.
You're descended from that.
I'm descended from him. And we're the first generations to actually know all of that. Like, we could have known.
We have the information.
Yeah, we have the
just
information.
Readily available.
I can go get it right
at
now.
Our fingertips.
It takes me 10 minutes. And I can go get another story.
You don't have to go like to some
facility
and like look through all these whatever that thing
Rolodex.
is. The Rolodex.
I don't know.
I don't even know what it's called.
No, Rolodex is the names on the thing. I don't even know.
The fiche, like the is that like when you can look at like old newspaper clippings? Like,
oh, I have no idea. Yeah. And what the heck was that? Is that just a little image, and then I guess
it's like they take a picture of the thing, and then you could look at it, and you could scroll through thousands.
Oh, and it was small so that they could fit more.
Yeah, and I think that they would index them based on topics and things.
Yeah.
And
That's what
I
you
just
used
go
to
to
do.
Google.
Yeah.
Like,
I can
thank
go
you,
look
Google.
up anything I want.
I mean, with even Amazon Echo, you can be like, "Hey, Alexa,"
Yeah.
like.
Oh, careful! It'll turn on.
Oh, will it?
Yeah, happen.
See, but yeah, and for me, I think I have felt personally, and if this is the experience is exclusive to me, then maybe this isn't part of being a millennial. But I felt so much pressure in my life to conform.
Yeah.
To be like my ancestors.
Yeah.
To be like my father. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that.
No.
I love my father so much. I admire my father. Like, he built an incredible life for me.
Yeah.
The childhood that I'm talking about is because of my father.
Yeah.
And because of my mother and the sacrifices that they made. But at the same time, you're absolutely right. It's like if we use these experiences like the internet, like social media, like 9/11, like our access to endless information, all the movies we've seen, all of these experiences that we've been able to have because of the unique generation that we've grown up in. It doesn't fit for me to go and to sit at a desk. It just doesn't fit me.
Yeah.
And the craziest thing is that the world we live in, you look maybe the 1980s.
Yeah.
Nobody made careers doing podcasts.
Yeah.
The only people who made
radio
careers
show.
were
That's
radio
it.
hosts.
That's it.
But that was a very specific career. You could go to
Huge
school.
infrastructure.
You could go to school to become that.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to school to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
You don't have to go to school to be a life coach.
Yeah. Well,
you don't have to go to school to write a book these days.
Yeah.
You can self-publish a book.
Yeah.
And then so there's just so much available that allow us to stand.
Yeah. Well,
to stand on the shoulders of past generations, but to stand for what we feel is right.
Yeah.
And we use values like family and hard work. Hopefully, I'm personally learning what that is for the first time in my life.
Yeah.
I've been a lazy, entitled millennial. I thought that if I got my bachelor's degree, that I was entitled to a 6-figure job.
Yeah.
And the moment that I went to my first 9-to-5, making $38,000 a year, and spent hour after hour after hour doing just the most menial crap, listening to podcasts.
Yeah.
And being like, what makes me different than this person who gets to talk about movies all day?
Yeah.
Listening to my favorite artist on Spotify because I could listen to any song I wanted just at the tip of my fingers, and listening to these people and being like, what makes me any different? Nothing. The only thing that makes me different is I'm not going for it, and they did. Yeah. And I feel like that phrase, I'm not going for it, but they did. Why don't I go for it? I think that defines our generation. And I think that's where the entitlement comes from, is we believe that we're entitled to our voice mattering. Yeah. We're entitled to people caring about the stupid crap that we do. Yeah. But that's false entitlement. Yeah. False entitlement is, in my opinion, is expecting the result without putting forth the work. Yeah. And that's one of the things that I look back on past generations, and I realize that I want to learn from them. I want to learn from my grandpa. Yeah. His work ethic. How did he do that? If I could take that and apply it to this day and age and all the resources we have available, what could I do? Yeah. Anything. Endless possibilities. Yeah. And that is so intriguing to me. And it's because of the world that was created by these past generations that we're even able to explore it. Yeah. Well, and I find it interesting because I just thought about this, with our generation, we're not old. We're not old. Oh. We're freaking young. So we're in our... Millennial, is... When did millennials start? 1986? Something like that. Something like that. 2000? Yeah. Or I think it actually ends a little before 2000. I think it's 1995. Is it 5? Maybe 6, 1996. Because I know that my fiance, she's 22 right now, and she's part of the generation right after us. Yeah. She was born in 96. Yeah. And I just think... I think it might actually extend to... I think it might be 82 even to Could you imagine being judged for what you were saying when you were 18? Your entire generation? like
because
James Gunn.
They had a voice for the first time, and then it's like, hey, when you were 18, you were a prick. It's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, I know.
Guess what? That was 10 years ago.
That was 10 years ago.
I've changed a little bit.
Yeah, like I've learned some.
That was over a third of my life ago. You know, like that's it's interesting. I just thought of that. Like we got branded for what we were saying as 18, 20-year-olds, younger.
Yeah. Well, I mean that's
because we for the first time, common people
we had a platform to be able to.
Yeah.
We had blogs, we had social media, we had Twitter, we had it. Like, you could get on there and potentially be in front of the entire world.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a crazy and interesting generation that we live in.
Yeah. Well, and it's fun to see. I don't know. I'm just so interested to see what happens going forward, because we have these polar opposites of, you have like Antifa, right? Have you ever heard of them? Oh, never mind then. Well, basically Antifa, they call themselves anti-fascists, but they go and beat up people at Trump rallies.
Oh.
Yeah. So they're fascists. Yeah. Anyway,
but
so
they're
we
That's interesting.
So they attack. They think they're punching Nazis when it's like, dude, you're just punching somebody who has a different viewpoint than you do.
Well, isn't that what Nazis mean? Like, a Nazi is anyone who thinks differently.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We're supposed to like only have one way of thinking.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because I really believe that the pendulum's going to swing back. Like, I think that we're seeing the extremes on both sides, and most people are residing in the middle. But even when it's swung for like super like what people consider narcissistic, self-centered, I think that it's like making its way back, where it's our generation. There's always a push and pull generation, right? There's like the push generation that's like, let's try a bunch of stuff, and the next generation is typically a pull one, where it's like, let's pull back
and like let's rein this in, get a little more grounded.
Yeah, well, they've even found with like millennials, for example, they're more liberal, which like that word is pretty. It's kind of a charged word now. Specific connotation for some people. But like liberal-minded, meaning you like think open. Yeah, you're wide open, and the generation after us is a lot more closed.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That is.
They're actually a lot more closed off, which is not closed off. That sounds bad. I'm trying to think of the right word to describe them. Basically, there's liberal and conservative, right? The generation after us is becoming more conservative, and I mean in a mindset. I don't mean like a political idea.
Yeah, I could see that. And I think honestly, anyone who listens to us, like, obviously we welcome anyone who listens. Yeah. But as two millennial white males,
see, we are a generation of labels. We are. Who the hell cares? Who cares?
That's true.
Like
but I was just saying, as who we are, the individuals we are, and I'm 28. I am Caucasian, and I am a male. Like, I guess I'll like identify.
Yeah. And you're straight, and you're...
I'm straight.
It's so funny. Now that you mention that, I can't help but see it.
I'm Mormon, right?
Yeah.
That's how I grew up, yeah. I think, at least for me personally, my heart just goes out to any dude who would listen to this. Yeah. Personally, because this is my experience. Any dude who would listen to this sitting at a desk, wondering if there's something more. Yeah. An individual who would go from that setting and maybe go back to their apartment or their house, and they would have a wife that they have troubles connecting to because they have troubles connecting to themselves. Yeah. Because maybe they hate themselves. Yeah. Maybe they hate looking at any pictures of themselves. Yep. Maybe they hate that every time that they get on social media, all they're going and looking for is like dirty pictures of girls. Yeah. Like, or they're seeing pictures from other peers in high school and comparing themselves to how happy they are and what they're doing. And because we can do that so easily, we don't have to pick up a phone or write a letter in order to realize that we're behind. Yeah. And so my heart just goes out to those people, and my message would be, connect to yourself.
Yeah.
Connect to who you are. Find ways to love yourself. And then things shift.
Yeah.
Things begin to change. And
be honest with yourself.
Be honest.
I think that's the biggest part for me. Like, sometimes the love yourself thing, I think, can have a negative swing to it, right? Where someone becomes complacent.
Absolutely.
With where they're at.
They're like, I don't have to improve. I don't have to get better.
I think starting, it's having conversations with yourself. Like, go and sit and look at yourself in the mirror and say, like, dude, where are you at?
Yeah. What
right
do
now?
You want?
Yeah.
What do you really want?
What are you doing here? Why are you doing it? Like, I know I talked about this when we did a recording before, but when I used to interview kids all the time for this job I was working at, and I was the first one that ever asked them that.
Yeah.
Why do you want this job?
Why do you want to be you said, why do you want to be a doctor?
Yeah. Some kid came in, I want to go to medical school. Awesome. Why? And he's like, well, I want to help people. Don't have to become a doctor to do that. And he's like, no one's ever asked me this before. I'm like, dude, before you get $400,000 in debt, maybe you should answer that question.
Ask, like, I'm not saying it's a bad direction.
No,
absolutely.
If that's your path,
if that's what you love,
we need
that's
doctors.
Your passion, like that's what you feel called to do. Go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you're right. We need
doctors.
We're
the first generation to say that kind of stuff too.
Like if that's what you love,
if that's what you like feel that you should do,
as opposed to if that's what can provide for your family and create a secure.
Because
that's the thing. Yeah. What is security?
Nothing.
And that's.
I
think that comes from. I genuinely believe that comes from 9/11. It's
totally.
Like there's no such thing as security.
Yeah.
You're in your 9-to-5 job where you're making maybe $100,000 and you're up in this tall building, and then one day the world ends.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah. Well, I was an executive. I was an executive at a solar company and at a software company. And both of those ended. Guess what? It's all going to end. Yeah. Anyway, there's no such thing.
Is here.
Yeah,
what
it's
do you
right
do
here.
when the shit hits the fan?
Yeah.
Which I thought about that the other day. Where does that phrase come from?
I don't know.
The first person who that would be terrible.
You're
to clean
just
up,
throwing manure and it just hits the fan and
explodes. Who threw that shit at that fan? But yeah, when that happens,
so
where do you go? What do you do? Where do you turn? And what I've learned is the only place is here.
Yeah.
What do I do? How do I react? When I went through a divorce, the first 2 months, it was just constant questions. How am I going to show up? Who am I going to be? What is my new paradigm like? Because that to me was the end of the world.
Yeah.
But it's those questions. You're exactly right. I think, not that we're the first generation to ever ask questions, but I think there's this widespread mentality among our generation to be like, why?
Yeah.
Someone says, you should do this, 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 and this. And our first thing is, why?
Yeah.
Why should we do it? I'm not dismissing
it. It comes off as that doesn't have any value.
Yeah. Because it comes off as us saying well, you don't know what you're talking about. But what we're really saying is, just explain to us.
Yeah. Explain to me why that's a good thing.
And maybe we do have a little arrogance.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because we were growing up that way.
Yeah.
We're learning.
Yeah.
And
we're still super young.
Hopefully,
we've got a long way to go, man.
Hopefully, and I want to be. If there's one thing that I want to do in my life in terms of what I want to do as a career, it would be to empower individuals to just ask questions.
Yeah.
What do you want?
Why?
What do you want your life to look like? Why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Is it getting you what you want?
Are you happy with the way that you look? Are you happy with the way that, not in terms of your physical traits, but are you happy with the way that you feel about yourself?
Yeah.
Like when we talked about with exercise, right? Where do you want to get to? How do you want to feel?
Absolutely.
For me, I just want to feel strong. I want to be able to run. I want to be able to lift. I want to be able to do things that my girls, I'll never be out of breath playing with them.
Yeah.
I'll never be out of breath even if I take them for a 10-mile hike and I'm carrying them on my back plus a bunch of water plus, camping stuff.
And even if that's not your reality right now, you're like, that's what I want to work towards.
But it took me a while to figure that out. And I had to start asking the questions. I've had a couple of people ask me, I'll have guys ask me dating advice sometimes. And I'm like, well, have you sat down and wrote down everything that you want? Like, what do you mean? I'm like, I'm not talking physical traits. What do you want your experience to be like when you're around this person all day for the rest of your life?
And they're like, that's a weird question.
Yeah. I'm like, how's that weird? Sit down. Write it out. Because that's what I did. Like, I remember I would keep thinking about the companions I would have on my mission. And I'm like, oh, I hated this trait about this person. What's the opposite trait of that? Okay, this is the kind of situation I would want. And I literally went through all of them, and then I'm like, oh, I like that. That was really cool. Like, when I was living with that guy and we were doing this stuff, we were working hard together. These are the traits that were working.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I found Natalie 6 months later because I could have a 5-minute date and know the answer.
You were like, nah, you don't.
That was my shortest date. I turned around and dropped the girl off. Because she was she was being super rude anyway.
An individual like that, someone could look at it and be like, well, that dude's kind of a prick.
Yeah.
No. I know what I want.
Yeah.
And I know what I don't want. And there's nothing wrong with that. And so...
As long as you're willing to put in the work for what you want.
Our platform, exactly. Our platform is just that. Know what you want.
Yeah.
And you can have it. You can. We live in an age of endless resource.
Yeah, that's one thing that drives me. It gets me a little bit upset. Is when, you know that story about the dog on the nail? Have I told you this story before?
I think so.
So a guy's walking down the street, and his neighbor is sitting out on his porch, and his dog's sitting in the front yard and moaning and groaning.
Mm-hmm.
Just, and whining, and he goes, hey, what's wrong with your dog? He's like, oh, he's sitting on a nail. It's like, well, why doesn't he get off of it? He's like, doesn't hurt bad enough for him to get off of it. Just hurts bad enough for him to moan and groan. Yeah. That's one thing I like about Gary Vee, and I like his language and the way he does it, is he's like the internet, like, if you love hot dogs are your favorite. You could start a YouTube channel just reviewing hot dogs, and you could make $50,000 a year doing that.
You could. Because
that's not insane.
I'd watch that. I also like hot dogs, and I would love to go to a place where I could just easily know where the best ones are.
And which ones am I supposed to buy? Brats, and which
how
sausages are the best? How do I? You could literally, and I bet you can make more than $50,000 just talking about hot dogs.
You could be the hot dog guy.
Yeah.
And that's how you'd be known.
Yeah.
Hot dog guy. Oh, you watch the hot dog guy? Oh,
yeah. You can literally make money doing that.
Yeah.
And
there's nothing wrong with that.
And then, of course, the counter argument that I often hear is like, well, if everybody did that, then nothing will get done. Guess what? Nope, not everyone's going to do that. But if you're listening to this right now, and you're like, that's me.
Do it.
Maybe not the hot dog guy, but you know what I mean? You have this specific thing that you enjoy doing that you just find yourself doing. Like, start going through what you do every day, and you're like, it's weird that I just do this one thing.
Yeah.
Like, when I have no time, I go and do this. I go and do art. I go and do
I study creative. Chess moves.
Yeah.
Like, I become a master at chess. I don't know. Like,
I study history.
Yeah.
That's all. When I have nothing to do, I'm like, I look up stuff. Like, if it's a podcast about history, I can listen to that for hours.
Yeah.
You know? Or frankly, like a lot of fantasy books. I love books like that. And I love listening to the authors and how they created that world.
Absolutely.
And then it's like, why am I not writing?
Yeah. Well, for me, when my moment was, I genuinely believe growing up that I had anxiety. And that's something I can talk more about later. But just asking myself so many questions, like, what would I do if my dad died in a car accident? Like, I've thought about that scenario and how multiple times and how I would react, to the point where I have taken myself through so many scenarios that I understand. I feel like I understand the human experience pretty well.
Yeah.
And it was one of the reasons why I really enjoyed being a missionary, because I got to connect with people. And I think it's one of the reasons why I really hated being at a desk and doing computer work and talking to people on the phone who didn't respect me and I wasn't connecting with. We were having just these really shallow conversations. And then when I was introduced to the career of life coach, which is a weird title. I always feel weird saying it. Like, I'm a life coach or I'm a mentor, but what it represents to me is that I get to sit down with people, I can hear them talk about their life and their experiences, and I can see their patterns because I've asked myself so many questions personally. And being able to turn that into a career is incredible.
And there's...
And of course, you know, there are people in my life who look at me and what do they say? That's weird. How are you getting by doing that?
Yeah.
Because my generation, right, we went and worked in a factory. We went and worked on the railroad. We went and worked at a job, right?
Yeah.
9 to 5,
and
like
how many,
401k, pension,
and
medical benefits. It's just, that's the way.
And
so you can get a house, so you can live in that house for the rest of your life, and then you can die.
Yeah. And I think that's where our generation comes off really arrogant, is it's like, that sounds terrible. You know what I mean? It's like when somebody tells me, because I did the same thing. I worked sales jobs. I did door-to-door sales, which was extremely difficult because I'm a very empathetic person. Mm-hmm. And I'm the same. I had extreme amounts of anxiety. I didn't label it that. I didn't know why.
Yeah,
I'm like,
for sure.
I'm so scared. And then I would go up and knock the door, you know? Or like, I think that's why I used to get upset at my buddies who said that they couldn't find girls. Because I was like, dude, I'm just as scared as you are.
Yeah.
Because my heart would be pounding. I'd go up and be like, hey, how's it going? And that's why I wrote out scripts of what to say and how to say it and when to put pauses. Like, I thought out all of my conversations. And that's why sometimes I'm sure you've seen this before, but if someone asks me a question that I hadn't really thought about yet, I can't give an answer right away. I have to be like, I have to think about that for like a day or two. Let me think about it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that I think that's where we connect really well.
For sure.
Is I had no idea that that's what the problem was. Like, I used to get all these stomach aches and I'd feel terrible. I'd be like just gripped for the next day.
Yeah.
But when I would think about the word anxiety, or I'd think about, like, I just thought that was weak. Yeah. Frankly.
Absolutely.
You know.
But when you interact with people, and you are honest, you realize, especially, you know, when you interact with another man, and this is not something that like comes easily or naturally to most males.
Totally.
But when you are able to just sit down and have an honest conversation, you're like, wow, I did not realize that you were going through some of the same crap that I'm going through. Yeah. And then you can help each other and support each other in what you're creating, and I think that was really what this started as. Yeah. Right? It was this, we just wanted to create a platform where guys could maybe come and even see, like, holy cow, look at the way these two dudes talk to each other. Like, who are people in my life? Who are other dudes that I could connect with? Yeah. Because that's one thing that I think is, like, once again, man, after you said that label thing, now I can only see that. You're like, you seriously like opened my mind on some stuff just right now. Like, because I was thinking about, like, why is toxic? Are you an Xbox person or a PS4 person? Yeah. Are you an iPhone person? Are you an Android person? Well, like, I was wondering, label ourselves. I was wondering, why is it so offensive to me when they say toxic masculinity? I instantly am like, shut up. Yeah. That's not real. Like, I get very, very angry. Yeah. At that. And I think a lot of guys do. That's why Gillette, how much did they lose? They've lost hundreds of millions of dollars so far. I don't know. So Gillette put out an ad that was like, we can do better. And it's talking about toxic masculinity. And it's like, it is seriously one of the worst. I don't know who approved that. Yeah. Because your entire business is men. Yeah. And it used to be the best a man can get. Yeah. Right, or a man can Gillette, get, right? The best a man can get. Yeah. And then they went from that to, we can do better. You can, like, it was very preachy and in your face. What does this have to do with shaving? Yeah. Are you a therapist or are you a razor company? And now, like, I have a feeling their company's going to go down for sure. Yeah. It's only a matter of time. Because there are other razor companies that are popping up that are like, get this manly razor. Yeah. Like, well, a watch came out with this luxury watch company released a commercial. I don't know how they put it together that fast. It's amazing. But they released a commercial within like a week and a half of that. That's awesome. That's the opposite. That's like, here's all the things that men go through. 97% of workplace deaths, 98% of deaths in wars, 80% of the suicides. You know, there's some serious issues that men are facing today. Yeah, absolutely. And this lack of before our generation,
what would happen, and there's a lot of people that talk about this. I still like slightly remember it as a really young kid, but if you had a family reunion or you had a family gathering, the girls would stay in the kitchen and like finish, like they, you know, after they finished, everyone finished eating, girls would all meet in the dining room or whatever, and the guys would go out to fix the car, and that's where they would talk.
Yeah.
That's where they would like be like, oh hey, let me, like, it wasn't like, hey, like, let's connect right now.
At least then there wasn't anything wrong with it.
Yeah. And there was this moment though, and I still remember, like, as a kid you'd be interested in what the older guys were up to, and you'd want to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And they would fix cars or they would solve a problem. That doesn't happen now. And then you have these men that are sitting idle or playing video games or watching Netflix or looking at pornography and are completely disconnected from themselves, from frankly God, and from all of those around them.
Yeah, absolutely.
They never have real conversations. They never sit next to another guy and say, hey, how can we fix this? Can we figure this out together? I don't know how to fix this thing. That doesn't happen.
Yeah, because it's viewed as weakness.
Yeah, and that needs to change.
Absolutely.
Because I actually think that this labeling of men as like I watched this video, I could not believe it. It was like this, one of the saddest things I've ever seen. This YouTuber got up and he went to New York City. He just asked 2 questions, right? Mm-hmm. He asked, what are 3 things that women are better at than men? And they would answer right away. Answers came immediately. And then he would ask, the next question was, what are 3 things that men are better at than women? No one gave him an answer.
Yeah.
There was
it's not
one,
because there's not answers.
No.
It's because we don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
We don't feel comfortable saying that, like, yes, men are, like, generally more, like, strong.
Yeah, they're stronger. They can lift more.
Yeah.
You know?
Physically. I'm not saying, like, there are absolutely women out there who are way stronger than me.
I know some of them. The trouble is people mix the word generally with universally.
Yes.
That means generally means in general.
Yeah, statistically.
Yeah.
Statistically. Right? The fastest man in the world has a better time than the fastest woman in the world.
Yeah.
That is just the fact.
Yeah.
Like,
but you can't say that.
The NBA
yeah.
makes more money and is generally more popular than the WNBA.
Yeah.
But the thing is you can almost say it.
Yeah.
But you have to say it in a way where it's like a joke. You have to be like the douchebag character on the TV show, like Dwight Schrute, who can say, like, I love sports, I love jokes. Like, WNBA, NBA, one's a sport, one's a joke.
Yeah.
But it's like it has to be masked in this, like, he's this ultra conservative douchebag kind of character.
Yeah.
And then it's like, well, you have to be a douchebag in order to just accept what is true?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's why comedians now, they can't even go to colleges. Because what do comedians do? They say the truth.
They satirize what's actually happening.
Yeah, but they satirize reality. If it's not reality, it's not funny.
It's not funny. No one relates to it.
No, you're like, this is stupid. This guy's an idiot. That's why sometimes I'll listen to some of these comedians and it's like, hey, like, I get it. You hate Trump. I get it.
Yeah.
How about you make fun of something else, though?
Seriously.
Like, I understand.
Like Stephen Colbert, that's like all I can talk about.
I used to love, dude, the Colbert Report. I watched that every day.
He's a genius.
He's so funny.
He knows comedy.
Yeah.
And it's kind of unfortunate. And I almost thought it was going to be like, this was going to be Christmas. Like, that Trump was going to be Christmas. But what it's become is just like,
it's like eating too much candy.
It's too much. Just like,
it's like,
make fun of someone else, please. Like, there's other shit going on in the world.
Yeah.
Trump's not the only person doing funny crap or weird, stupid crap. Yeah, so I agree with you. The labels and I think that really is our intention, is to help to promote that you can be a man, you can be honest.
Yeah.
You can be a millennial. You can be honest.
Yeah.
You can go for your dreams. Like, you can go for the things you want. You can learn how to work hard. You don't have to be put in a box by your labels, by all the experiences you've had. You can use them to stand on them.
Yeah. And it's okay if you're both steel and velvet.
Yeah.
Like that's
what you said to me when
velvet and
I
steel.
like to meditate in. Like I was like, I brand myself as the mountain man because I like like it empowers me.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I meditate, I like to meditate in a warm bath with like mood lighting and bath salts.
Yeah.
Like,
but like that means
I cry more than my fiance. I'm just gonna admit that.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things she loves about me.
Yeah.
Because I connect with myself.
Yeah.
I don't hide my emotions. I know what they are, and I learn from them.
Yeah.
I use them to get what I want.
If you're feeling dread every Monday morning, do you know that the heart attack rate across this country goes up by like 200% between 7 and 9 a.m. Monday morning?
I absolutely understand that. Because when I had my 9 to 5, it was like 6 o'clock on Sunday. I was just filled with dread.
Yeah, I'm like, oh no.
And then the time started getting sooner. It was all of a sudden it was halfway through the day on Saturday, and my thoughts were like, oh, a day and a half from now I have to go to work. Yeah. And I would start disconnecting from it because I just couldn't handle it.
To try to mitigate the fact that you're doing something that's crushing your soul.
Yeah.
And that's, if you're like, if I was a guy and I was listening to this, just understand that, like, yes, maybe you're gonna have to work at that job for another year.
Absolutely, right? You gotta pay the bills.
Don't be
hard
dumb.
work is a thing.
Yeah, don't be dumb.
Yeah.
And there's something for you to learn there. It's not a complete waste of time. Every single person that you talk to, you're learning something from. Like, you can find a way to enjoy it. But.
What do you want to create?
What do you want?
Yeah.
What do you actually want?
Do you want that moving forward? If not, what do you want, and what are the things you can begin to do while you're still doing that to make sure that maybe a year from now you don't have to do that anymore? You could be the hot dog
because
guy.
you'll hit a point. This is what happened with me. Is me and my wife had been working her business, and my wife's she's awesome.
Yeah, she's
amazing. And really, after we'd gone through, and we'll get into it at one point, but we'd gone through some seriously hard times. Basically, almost lost everything. I found out, okay, the only thing that really are important is me, my wife, and my kids. I really don't care about anything else. That was like a really eye-opening moment, but we got completely in line with what we wanted, and we worked her business for 18 months, and then I quit my job. Because we were making, every hour that I spent on her business building it, we would make twice as much as I did at my job.
Yeah.
And I had a good salary. I was making very good money.
Yeah.
And I was actually pretty flexible schedule. I got to move around. Like, it would be the dream job for a lot of people. But we'd started a year and a half before. We knew what we wanted, and as soon as the day came that I'm like, it doesn't make sense for me to stay here.
Yeah.
Then I bailed. Yeah. I actually quit the next day. I had a conversation that night with my boss, and then the next morning I just thought about it all night. I didn't sleep at all. My girls were up all night sick, and I walked in. I'm like, hey man, this is my last day. Thank you so much, and thanked him. And I said, hey, if you need me to stick around for a week or whatever, I'm in. I can do that. And he's like, no, just hand your clients over to some of our other guys, and you're good. I'm like, sick. See you later.
And those Thank you guys so much for listening to our podcast. We appreciate your support. Make sure you follow us on all the social media accounts listed below in the description, and go out